No one wants to be forced into shield by safe moves. It can be a nightmare to watch all your advances be forced back into defense, but you can also make it a nightmare for your opponent through the smart use of parries. Parries, otherwise known as perfect shields, but the competitive community refers to them as parries, so that's how I'll be referring to them, are the final frontier of defense. The ultimate control over your opponent's rhythm, and they're essential at high level. This is Coach TurtleKing, and today I'm going to teach you what parries are, how they work, and how you can swing the tide of battle through smart use of them. This video is assuming you're already somewhat familiar with the concept of frame data, so if you want to learn more, be on the lookout for a separate video on the subject in the future. Before anything, let's warm up our defense. Hop into training mode and for 5 minutes, practice dashing around and putting up your shield to interrupt your dash. Remember that your initial dash is not cancelable into shield, so you'll be without that defense until you begin your run. However, make sure you still hold the direction you're dashing while you input shield out of a dash, because for some reason, the shield will come up sooner than if you were to dash, let go of the left stick, and then input shield. Get used to nuances like these with shield movement, and implement walking in order to move small distances while still having access to shield. Also, start to get a feeling for the 11 frame lag you suffer when dropping shield, and cancel this lag with a jump or an up special. Now, set the CPU dummy in training mode to forward smash or neutral B, so you can get a feel for parry timing as I explain what they are and how they work. Parrying is a special technique that can be performed by dropping your shield within 5 frames of an attack making contact with you. This causes your character's eyes to glow, the screen to flash, and the game to freeze for a second. What it also does is allow you to act 3 frames sooner than normal when parrying almost all non-projectile attacks. In addition to giving you 3 more frames of advantage, it also allows you to use any move afterwards without having to suffer the 11 frames of shield drop lag, which are normally applied to any attack that isn't an up smash, up special, or aerial. After parrying, try to use something like a smash attack. You might notice that you are able to use it much quicker than just dropping your shield into a smash attack. The exception to this rule is grab, which, when done out of shield stun, only suffers a 4 frame penalty instead of the full 11. This means a 6 frame grab out of shield, which is the standard fastest grab, is a frame 10 out of shield option. Another quirk of parrying is that against most projectiles, you'll only actually gain 1 extra frame of advantage. This combined with the lack of shield drop penalty can be helpful when closing the distance against projectiles, but it's generally not as rewarding as parrying a physical attack. The final bit of information with parrying is that you must have held your shield for at least 3 frames before you're able to drop your shield and get a parry. This means you can't do it instantaneously, but in most up-close situations, this limitation is not very noticeable. So now that you know what parrying is, how can you use it? 3 frames may not seem like a lot, since it's only 3/30ths of a second, but especially when combined with not having to suffer the 11 frame shield drop to use most grounded moves anymore, it can be critical to turning the tables on opponents pressuring your defense. For example, Palutena is a character who loves to put up mid-range walls using her extremely large and safe forward and back airs. When hitting your shield as low as she can, she will be -5 with either attack. This means you will be able to act 5 frames before she can. However, this is still usually safe for Palu, since most characters don't have access to a frame 5 or faster out of shield option, especially not one that can reach as far enough to punish a spaced aerial. For reference, the fastest out of shield options in the game are frame 3 up specials. If you parry the back air, however, Palutena is now -8 on shield, and you also have access to any of your moves. Now, a character with fast enough dash grab, such as Joker's frame 8 dash grab, can punish Palu even for perfectly spacing and landing her aerial. If you can see Palutena jumping towards you and landing just at the edge of her aerial range, you can be pretty confident that they're looking for one of these aerials. For this drill, go to the website ultimateframedata.com and look at the frame data for your main. I'll make a video explaining more on how to navigate and understand the information the website provides in the future, but just pay attention to the number on the red bar that says a number on shield. Spend 10 minutes browsing through frame data and take note of safety of multiple characters' aerials on shield, and the speed of their up smash or up special. At the very bottom of the character's page in miscellaneous info, you can also find a character's fastest out of shield options. So when should you be looking for a parry? Parries are the best way to get punishes on predictable opponents' best tools, which, in Ultimate, are usually aerials. If someone keeps landing on you with their safest aerial, timing a shield drop with the same rhythm that their attack would connect can let you find openings very efficiently in neutral. It's especially crucial against moves that aren't otherwise punishable, such as Rob Nair, Cloud Forward Air, and Fox Nair. Aerials that are safe but have enormous windup are the perfect candidates to time a parry on, since you can react to the startup of the move with shield and release shield with the same timing with which the move would come out. Parries can also be relatively low risk, since if you release your shield right before your opponent hits the ground, you'll be able to shield any aerial that hits you early, and parry any aerial that hits you as late as possible. The next best candidates for parries are projectiles, since they travel with predictable timings and give you ample time to react. Parrying a projectile can let you close the distance a little sooner against a projectile user, and force them to scrap with you head on. So now it's time to put your parrying skills to the test. Hop into 3 matches against other players and try to parry 5 aerials over those 3 games. Every time your opponent jumps, pay attention to how they're positioning themselves in the air. If they're positioned to strike with one of their most common aerials, release your shield with the timing that you think it'll make contact with you. Do this often enough, and your opponent will now have to commit to changing up their aerial timing. This can mean throwing out their attack earlier and higher up on your shield, meaning it'll be less safe and potentially punishable with just a normal shield. They might not swing at all, or they'll use a different move to mix up your parry timing. As an additional challenge, try punishing your opponent 3 times after parrying them. Multi-hit moves are very good against parrying players, since you can't usually parry the last hit of a multi-hit after shielding the first, besides a few exceptions such as Cloud Cross Slash. You better learn that one. And getting multiple parries in a row is extremely difficult. To compensate, they usually don't have as much range or is not as safe against shield. Try to think back to the moves you studied on ultimateframedata.com to see if you have enough of a window to punish. Remember that practice makes perfect, and soon you'll be able to intuitively predict the tempo of your opponent's attacks, and also only go for punish on the moves that are actually punishable. Sometimes, the best defense is letting go of your defense, so you can make sure you're taking the opportunity to parry attacks and let your opponent know that they just can't keep swinging at you with the same timing for free. Strike back with your fastest or most optimal punish, and you'll soon find that opponents have to respect you much more than before. This is Coach TurtleKing, and I'll see you next time, where we'll discuss frame data and how it works.